Eleanor's voice, sharp as shattered glass, cut through the awards dinner din. "Still playing with your little city maps, Mark. When will you get a real job, like Robert's?" Her husband, Robert, Olivia's father, smirked from the head table where he'd just received a Lifetime Achievement Award. My polite smile didn't waver. "Actually, Eleanor, those maps just secured the new waterfront development project for the city. The one that's set to triple property values where even Robert's old firm couldn't make inroads, a real win for our community benefit initiatives." Eleanor's painted smile froze. Robert coughed, his smirk vanishing into his napkin. The applause for Robert suddenly felt awkward. My heart was hammering, but my face remained a mask of calm. This wasn't just a slip of the tongue, this was a public execution planned. My initial assessment deliberate, malicious, and incredibly poorly timed for them. The signs had been there for years, escalating subtly. Robert constantly referred to my career as a charming hobby. At family gatherings, Eleanor would often accidentally crop me out of photos, sighing about how Olivia could have had stability. Then there was the constant refrain about how my chosen field of urban planning, focused on sustainable development and public spaces, was noble but hardly lucrative. Leading up to tonight's disastrous dinner, Eleanor had been oddly insistent I sit beside her, claiming she wanted to catch up. Robert, during his acceptance speech, had made several pointed remarks about tangible achievements and leaving a real legacy, his gaze sweeping dismissively past me. They'd been laying the groundwork, preparing their stage. Olivia and I met 5 years ago. I was presenting a preliminary master plan for a revitalized downtown district at a town hall. She was there as a freelance graphic designer, representing a local arts initiative that wanted more public art installations. Her questions were insightful, her passion for community infectious. We talked for hours that night about shared public spaces and sustainable futures. A year later, under an oak tree in the very park I'd helped redesign, I asked her to marry me. The early years were blissful, two creatives building a life, understanding each other's unconventional hours and project-based income. Our backgrounds were starkly different. I came from a middle-class family of educators. Hard work and intellectual curiosity were our currency. The Vances were old money, their success measured in acquisitions and stock portfolios. Robert, a retired CEO from a legacy manufacturing firm, couldn't understand why anyone would choose public service over private profit. Eleanor, who'd never worked a day in her life, valued social standing above all. My passion for creating equitable, livable cities was, in their eyes, a whimsical pursuit. Our modest but comfortable home, a lovingly restored bungalow in an up-and-coming neighborhood, was a far cry from their sprawling estate. These differences became the cracks Eleanor and Robert pried at. They tried to drive wedges. Eleanor once forgot to invite me to Robert's milestone birthday, telling Olivia I was probably too busy with those civic meetings. Robert, after learning Olivia and I were discussing starting a family, cornered me, offering unsolicited advice. "Children need a father with a reliable income, Mark, not just ideals." Then there was the time Eleanor insinuated to Olivia that my late nights at city council meetings were perhaps not solely work-related. The award dinner, however, was their most brazen attack, a clear escalation designed to humiliate me in front of Olivia's family and Robert's influential peers. It was the turning point. I wouldn't just absorb this. The next day, my urban planner's mind went into site analysis mode. I needed data. First, I mentally replayed Eleanor's exact phrasing. It was too specific, too practiced. I recalled seeing a small, folded notacard peeking from her clutch just before her outburst. Could she have scripted her insult? Second, I thought about the guest list. Eleanor had specifically invited a few of my own colleagues, a deviation from past events. Was that to maximize my embarrassment? I then made a discreet call to a city hall contact, someone who occasionally did event security. I asked if there was any chance he'd overheard anything near the Vance's table. He hadn't, but he did mention that Eleanor had been uncharacteristically flustered when she'd arrived, double-checking the seating chart with the event manager. This all pointed to premeditation. My third, preliminary evidence, came from Olivia's younger sister, Chloe. I casually mentioned the awkward moment. Chloe, bless her candor, confirmed Eleanor had been on a subtle campaign for weeks, making comments to other relatives about my unsuitability. She'd been preparing the ground. The pieces were falling into place. I needed an ally. Chloe was the obvious choice. She was a market analyst for a tech startup, Sharp, and had always maintained a healthy distance from her parents' snobbery. I met her for coffee, laying out my suspicions and the few pieces of data I'd gathered. Her reaction was a mix of not surprised and quiet fury. "They're unbelievable, Mark," she said, shaking her head. "Mom's been especially agitated lately about you getting some good press for that park project. She hates when you outshine Dad in any public sphere, even accidentally." Then Chloe provided something crucial. "A few years ago," she began hesitantly, "before Olivia met you, she was dating this really great guy, David Chen. Mom and Dad hated him, wrong background, no ambition, according to them. They orchestrated this incredibly public, humiliating breakup for him at a family charity event. I always suspected Mom kept notes on her strategies. Let me see if I can find anything. She used to keep old journals and planners in the attic. A week later, Chloe called, her voice tight with suppressed excitement. Mark, you are not going to believe this. She'd found an old digital planner of Eleanor's, one she'd backed up to a cloud service Chloe still had access to. Hidden within encrypted files, which Chloe's tech skills helped her bypass, were meticulous notes. Not just about David Chen detailing a smear campaign involving faked emails and rumor mongering, but a new section titled M Project. It contained outlines, talking points, and even contingency plans for discrediting me, including the very lines Eleanor had used at the awards dinner. One note read, leverage R's award, maximize public stage, question M's seriousness, highlight instability. O will see reason. This was the core evidence, the smoking gun, or in planning terms, the undisputed environmental impact report of their toxicity. My stomach churned. It was far worse, more calculated than I'd imagined. The anger was cold now, replaced by a steely resolve. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about Olivia, about our future, about stopping a pattern of destructive behavior. I considered various approaches: a direct, explosive confrontation, leaking the info to sympathetic relatives. No, my strategy had to be like a well-phased development project, careful, evidence-based, and aimed at long-term sustainable change for our family. The first step was Olivia. I meticulously organized the evidence, printouts of Eleanor's planner notes, Chloe's testimony about the David Chen affair, even a timeline of their subtle digs over the years, culminating in the awards dinner. I dreaded this. I chose a quiet Sunday morning. Olivia, I began, my voice gentle but firm. There's something very serious we need to talk about concerning your parents. Her initial reaction was denial, tears, defense. My mother wouldn't, she can be critical, but not like this. I didn't push. I just laid out the evidence piece by piece. The notes about David Chen hit her hardest. She'd told me about David, how their breakup had been sudden and confusing, how her parents had convinced her he was wrong for her. Seeing it detailed in her mother's cold, strategic script was a profound shock. The project notes were the final blow. By the end, she was pale, silent, the fight gone out of her. They planned it, she whispered. All of it. It took days, many painful conversations, but Olivia's inherent fairness and love for me won out. She was heartbroken, yes, but also furious. She was in. With Olivia on board, we refined our presentation strategy. We needed to expose the full extent of their manipulation, not just to them, but to ourselves, to solidify our united front. We gathered more. Olivia remembered key phrases, dates. Chloe dug deeper into old family email archives, finding communications between Eleanor and Robert that corroborated the planner notes, showing Robert's complicity. He wasn't just a bystander, he was an active, albeit sometimes reluctant, participant in Eleanor's schemes. The David Chen affair was pivotal. Olivia even reached out to him. David, now a successful software engineer, was initially hesitant, but then shared damning emails her parents had sent him, filled with veiled threats and false accusations, designed to drive him away. The scope of their family management was horrifying, a systematic effort to control their daughters' lives, isolate them, and ensure they adhered to the Vance brand. Their motivation: a toxic blend of control, fear of losing status, and a twisted definition of love. Olivia made the call. Mom, Dad, we need to have a family meeting. Our house, Sunday. Her voice was devoid of its usual warmth. The Vances arrived, Eleanor attempting her usual charming offensive, Robert looking wary. Chloe was already there, a silent pillar of support. What's this all about, darling? Eleanor trilled, trying to hug Olivia, who subtly stepped back. No misunderstandings, Mom? I said, my voice calm as I gestured to the compiled evidence on our coffee table like a project brief. This is about a pattern of manipulation. Predictably, denial was their first defense. How dare you accuse us? Eleanor cried. We've only ever wanted the best for Olivia. Robert blustered about gratitude, and Mark turning Olivia against us. Then we began our presentation. I laid out the timeline, the M Project notes. Olivia, her voice shaking but firm, confronted them about David Chen, holding up copies of the emails David had shared. You didn't just disapprove, Mom. You actively destroyed that relationship. You lied to me. You lied to him. Chloe then presented the emails between Eleanor and Robert, showing their coordinated efforts, their discussions about how to handle me, how to guide Olivia. With each piece of evidence, Eleanor's denials grew weaker, Robert's bluster faded. He kept muttering about protecting the family. The critical moment came when Olivia looked at her mother and said, the notes about the awards dinner you wrote, who will see reason. What reason, Mom? That Mark isn't good enough. That my happiness doesn't matter unless it fits your plan. Eleanor finally broke, not with remorse, but with the frustration of a master manipulator whose strings had been cut. He's not like us. He was making you soft content with less. Robert just slumped, staring at the damning evidence, his family authority dissolving before his eyes. Their meticulously constructed facade had shattered. The Shenhuse review was devastating. In the aftermath, We didn't demand an apology we knew would be insincere. Instead, we laid out the new zoning regulations for our family. Severely limited contact for the foreseeable future. No more unsolicited advice. No more interference. Any future relationship would be on our terms, respecting our boundaries. If these terms were violated, we made it clear Chloe had copies of everything, and David Chen was willing to speak to other families the Vances had advised. The unspoken threat of wider social exposure was our only remaining leverage with them, their risk assessment clearly showing unacceptable fallout. Establishing these boundaries was an ongoing stakeholder engagement process. Eleanor would try to call Olivia weeping, attempting emotional blackmail. Olivia, with my full support, learned to say, "Mom, I love you, but I won't discuss this. If you can't respect our choices, I'll have to end this call." And she would. Robert tried a different tack, sending Olivia, concerned, emails about my job security. She'd reply, "Dad, Mark's career is our business. We are happy." The storm weathered. Olivia and I found our relationship stronger, forged in the fire of shared adversity. Our home became a true sanctuary. We started planning for a future we fully controlled, even talking about designing our own eco-friendly small home, a project combining my urban planning skills and her design aesthetic. Life felt lighter, more authentic. 6 months later, a small, almost imperceptible signal of their capitulation arrived. Robert's old company had a charity gala. He sent us tickets with a terse, handwritten note, "Table 7, if you wish." We went on our terms. During the evening, a former colleague of Robert's approached me. "Robert was just telling me about your waterfront project, Mark. Said it was a damn smart design, and the city's lucky to have you." High praise from him. Robert never said a word to me directly, but it was a clear, if grudging, acknowledgement. Not an apology, but a white flag. The victory wasn't their approval, but their surrender to our autonomy. A year after the confrontation, I was giving a keynote speech at a regional planning conference. Olivia and Chloe were in the audience. As I spoke about building resilient, equitable communities, I felt a profound sense of peace. The Vances were a footnote, no longer a chapter. They were still in our lives, peripherally, carefully managed holidays, birthdays. They hadn't changed, not really. But their power over us was gone. Driving home that night, Olivia squeezed my hand. "You know," she said, "they're still them, but we're different." I smiled. That's the only change that matters. We had built our own city, with strong foundations and clear boundaries. We hadn't played their game, we'd simply implemented our own much healthier, as master plan. And that, I realized, was the most satisfying outcome of all.